Yes, greetings to everyone. My name is Kwame Gonza, and in the studio I have my brother Titi over here. And as usual, even though last Sunday we did not come up with the program, we are coming to you uh, to look at the weekly roundup of the news, weekly African roundup and updates from the African world. And we're talking about the African world. We are talking about the African continent and the diaspora and what is happening over there. So within the African people. So that is what we have come to talk about this weekend and this Sunday. And we put out a flyer out there, and that flyer shows that we will be having these conversations, these discussions, this breakdown of the important news that happen around the continent. The channel is called Africa Reimagined. My name is Kwame Gonza once again, and I have my brother Tit here, just to give you a summary of what happened through the week. We had the things which we are going to break down within the next 1.5 hours. We had Blinken visit Africa. His visit follows. I know this is something which we spoke about, a week ago. Uh, he visited South Africa and he visited Congo. He went ahead to visit Rwanda. That was done this week. The attack on the Democratic Republic of Congo the attack on the United Nations by the Congo has continued on, and people are not satisfied over there. We have the Kenya elections, which have been going on, highly contested between Raila Odinga and also the hustler. The hustler, he calls himself the hustler, the people's hustler, the deputy president of Kenya, William Ruto. He's calling his movement the Hustler Nation. We have also in Sierra Leone, there has been some riots also. We'll touch on that. Ethiopia was able to fill its the third phase of the dam. This dam, which has been facing a lot of resistance from Egypt and Sudan, because they have been claiming that if Ethiopia builds this dam, it would affect the delivery of water to Sudan and then to Egypt, because they think that they depend on this water. But this water, majority of it comes from Ethiopia. Some of it comes from Uganda. Some of it comes from the eastern part of Congo. And so some of it comes from Kenya. So all that water, converges into the Nile and starts trekking all the way to the Red Sea. So Egypt feels that if they build this big dam, which is 6,000 megawatts, which is probably going to be the biggest dam in Africa and the seventh biggest in the world, if they complete it, it would affect their water. But Ethiopia also has insisted and said that this dam has to be built and it has to be, filled. So the work on that dam is almost around 85% complete. So the filling of the dam is going on. Yeah, so we'll break that down a little bit. And what else is there? The raid on the Uhuru House in the United States of the Africa People's Socialist Party, which is an organization, which is a Pan-African organization that believes in the fight for unifying the African continent and rebuilding it and dismantling the capitalist system, which has been exploiting the African people and the weak people of the world. And this system, he called it the colonial system. This organization is led by Chairman Omali Yashitela. And this attack has been, to some extent, looked at as the attack which happened in the 60s and the 70s on the Black Panther Party, when they used to attack them because they were trying to work for the community. The African People's Socialist Party also has been working studiously in the communities to uplift the people, communities which have been neglected. So we want to look at all that. My brother Titi, I think we will start with you greeting the audience, and then we'll start with the issue of Senator Blinken, his South Africa, how we saw it, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Madame Pando, and her response, and then we will go to Rwanda and look at the response in Rwanda. And in the Congo, I was not able to get a grip because of the French. They were speaking French, but I tried to find somebody to interpret for me what was the response of the government in Congo. But I believe that since the president in the Congo, who's Felix Tshisekedi, he took the step to push the Democratic Republic of Congo into the East African community. I believe that he saw that there is a possibility that he could get help from the East African community to solve the problems in the chaos in the eastern part of Congo. Yeah, so but we will look at all that. So you can take it from there, my brother, as you introduce yourself. We want to start with South Africa. Blinken is visit to South Africa, where he actually sat, he stood and gave the what he called the Africa strategy of the of the Joe Biden strategy in Africa. His administration is a strategy in Africa, or the Africa strategy of the Joe Biden administration. So please take it from there.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. And greetings to anyone who is watching. And so, Blinken coming to Africa and starting with South Africa, that in itself says something. I want us to look at it from the perspective that, you see, the runnings of the world, the actual deals that run the world, are the ones that we don't know about. We just see the system working. We see that it is the inputs and there's outputs. But then at the end of the day, what really decides what goes to happen is the deals that we don't see. In the case of Blinken in South Africa met with the president.
You say he never met with the president?
Yes, he met with the president, and of that meeting, of their sitting with his discussion with the president, nothing much was said. It's only when they bring about his counterpart, Dr. Nelly Pando, to come and say a very stern positioning, which had to basically look as to the independence of South Africa as a country. And to me, that is a show. That is something which happens on the side. What we as people, we should be interested in is what did the head of state have? Why did the head of state have to meet with a head of department from another state? And what was said? The same thing happened in Rwanda. Blinken met with Kagame, but then the press conference is given with his counterpart, who is responsible for foreign relations. You see, these are the kind of things, and when they get there, they actually take a stand. They take a stand on something that we can look at and see that it is an issue that is going to be, horizontal. It's going to just take us, to just give us some fuel to keep on powering up the system. But it does not actually go and say what was the actual agreement. I don't think foreign governments don't go around the world giving speeches. The speech which Blinken was giving, I think when we were having a discussion earlier, remember how you said that it is the buzzword, human rights, independence, sovereignty. The thing is, equal right. I think at some point they were talking about equal partnership. Equal partnership with who really? How does a country like Rwanda actually have an equal partnership with the United States? It's something we perceive, something we hope for, it's something we like, something that we like to hear. But then going to the Congo side, in Congo, well, the uprising actually, you can look at it to say that the uprising of the people is actually fueling into Congo being a storm. In when you look at the modus operandi of what happened when Ethiopia actually took a stand against the people in Tigray, and then they actually got an opportunity to vote their conscience when the case was brought against Russia. So what happened now is that when you look at them, just the mere fact that Congo independently, let's underline independent and actually put it in quotation, the mere fact that Congo independently and decided to approach the East African community. Remember that it's MONUSCO who is there through the UN, and you know that the UN does the bidding of the US. So when there is an uprising, it actually brings about a sort of, remember, it's a popular uprising. A popular uprising does not have a single leader. It is something of an ideological leader, which is saying that you can disrupt people protesting. You can disrupt one leader pulling for something. But a popular uprising becomes a problem because it is the people rallying over an idea. It does not really matter who you take out. You cannot take out an idea. So what happens in Congo is that when they do that, you think that they would be shunned by saying that, oh, you are not talking to the East African community. But then they are actually included in the tour of Africa by Blinken because, well, they have a certain sway now. Well, I mean, Congo is the richest country in the world. Wherever Congo goes, it is said that Africa will go. So right now, as we find that Congo is in some sort of, like, if we ask for what's happening in Congo and how many countries are actually milking Congo, and when villages start erupting, when communities start erupting, they have to go and run interference. They have to come and actually try to figure out, try to present, we are your friend. They are trying to say, we are your friend, and we will bring some 50,000 of aid, we'll bring 1 million of aid, just quell whatever uprising has now been triggered. So that's how an interference of saying what is happening where and how can we go and run interference. Let's get in front of the issues, let's control the narrative.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think actually, personally, I think that um, the visit in South Africa, United States, I think, came to with certain expectation. Of course, I would like to ask you a question from what you said. I think the visit in South Africa is out of anxiety that the United States is facing. If you look at there is something which I posted. Uh, Let me see. I had posted something here. Let me put it up. And Nkrumah spoke about the anxiety in the Congo, the anxiety that is resulting from the Congo. Africa. Okay. So what Nkrumah was saying was that if Congo was not having all these resources, that there could not be anxiety. These people will not have anxious, to be in the Congo, to try to be in the Congo, and insist, because you remember um, when you remember that when Congo got its independence in 1960, these people, like, you could see the desperate, like they were very desperate to take back the Congo, and within 6 months they killed the prime minister of the Congo. They use the UN, of course, they use the UN. And I think that as Africans, we have forgotten these things. Like it is easier. They just want to think that it is easier for us to forget these things. We can just forget easily. So Nkrumah said that if the Congo had not been so rich in mineral resources and the happy hunting ground of foreign monopolists, it would not have attracted such anxious attention. Okay, this is in the book, the challenge of the Congo, which Nkrumah wrote. So they might have been, they might have left the Congo alone to solve its own problems, but they don't want to leave Congo to solve its own problems because of the economic interests in the in the Congo. And I've been discussing this this video when we logged on is what I've been discussing. But what you see is that they are shifting the blame on Rwanda and saying Rwanda is the one which is sponsoring rebels in the Congo. But my argument was that Rwanda came on the scene in 1994, 1995 after the genocide. Okay, the president in Rwanda ascended to power in 2000. Okay, that's President Kagame. Now, Congo has been at this problem since 1960, when the United States, working with Belgium and Britain and all the other European powers, they overthrew and killed Lumumba. Lumumba's body has just been returned, just the teeth which remained. Okay, by the king of Belgium, the current king of Belgium. And on top of that, he did not even apologize, but he said that they regret the events of what happened. So they are confirming that they destroyed the country. Okay, but at the same time, Blinken is saying that Rwanda is the one which is disturbing the Congo. Rwanda is the one which is creating rebel groups in the Congo. So let us say from 1960 up to 2020, are they saying that it was Rwanda still creating the rebel groups? Those rebel groups were in the Congo since 1960s. And these guys, the Europeans and the Americans, were the ones, and the CIA were the ones which were creating those groups. Rwanda formed those groups. Rwanda has its own problems. That Rwanda, as a country which went through a genocide, it is suspicious of anyone who wants to point to, to talk about anything that might bring a genocide again in the country. That is why you see Rwanda operates like Israel. You see, Israel, if you are an enemy to Israel will hunt you from anywhere. And it has been going on. Mossad, it has been killing people in North America, in Europe, in South America, even in Africa. They operate all around the world, and they will kill anyone who they perceive as an enemy of Israel. Okay, but when an African does it, then all of a sudden this is unacceptable. But they are not condemning Rwanda, and this is the same thing which Madame Pando, the foreign minister of South Africa, was talking about. That this double standard, we will not accept it. If you are talking about Ukraine, you should talk the same thing about Palestine, which is people are being killed and murdered, and genocide is going on over in Palestine. Talk about these things, but this double standard. And then all of a sudden Blinken was coiling. You see, he was coiling. And then when she spoke about that, the reason why we have these problems in Africa, so she was subtly trying to mention that Rwanda is not the problem in the Congo for that chaos that is going on there, but the interests, the material interests in Africa, they are the problems. We have groups, and she was pointing to the United States and Europe. We have groups who have interest in Africa. Africa's materials. Africa is in problems because of its rich minerals, and she pointed that out straight. Blinken doesn't want to talk about that. Immediately looked and started talking about democracy. That the African people want democracy. African people, don't they want prosperity, economic prosperity? And you people are stealing our resources. We just want empty democracy as a religion. And I think as African people, we have reached a stage where we don't want the religious democracy that is being, we want the material resources in our ground to benefit us as Africans, to build our roads, to build our high-speed trains by ourselves, not some Chinese or some European company to come here and build it for us, to build our own semiconductor companies, to build our own automobile companies. This is what we want to see, to build our own motorcycle companies, our own brands, not some group to come here and then pretend as if it's building for Africa, when in fact they are carrying out exploitation. So what I see in this visit of Blinken is that they are trying to counter Russia because Russia came to Africa. And Russia is putting out plain, okay, it's not mincing any words. Russia is telling you that these people are colonialists. We are not here to colonize you. We have helped you in the past to fight off colonialism. These are colonialists, and we treat you as equal partners. So choose whom to work with. And that's why you see that in Blinken's speech, he was talking about equal partners. But again, what I'm seeing is that they are late. You see, even in one analyst on Al Jazeera, to comment about the speech of the speech of which was given by the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister Pando. The lady said that it looks like they are a little bit late because Africa has moved. It has seen Africa has sort of seen the light. This is not to suggest that our leaders are perfect. Of course, all of us as the youth, we are very dissatisfied with their approach, to things, for their failure to stand up, for their failure to stand together and protect the continent, and then to leave it open, to leave the continent open that Macron can just come in and fly and go to Cameroon without the knowledge of the African Union. This is unacceptable. Europeans should not just fly into our continent without the knowledge of the African Union or without the knowledge of SADC, without the knowledge of East African Community. They're supposed to seek permission before they fly into the African continent. So this is not a garden, their backyard garden where they fly. So those dissatisfaction, definitely, I think we have them. But on the other side, these colonialists, they think that they can come and bully, but Africa has moved beyond that stage. Why? Because if you see the deals which China has been giving to Africa, which are not the best, but they are better than what the West has been giving us. These deals are the ones which have caused anxiety, that China always is talking about equal win-win situation, equal partners. So now they are just following. Now China put up the Belt and Road Initiative, where it has built some ports in Mombasa. It has built a railway line from Djibouti all the way to, which is an electric rail, all the way from Djibouti to, to Ethiopia. And these guys also, they came up, they started in Europe and also came up with the program and say it's 600 billion. But this 600 billion which they are talking about, they don't have the money. And any person with simple common sense would know that these Europeans, Americans, they don't have any money. You see, because they're just printing. They're just printing. They don't have money. Economies are shrinking in the United States. Economies are shrinking in Europe. If you look at the economic figures which came up just recently, United States economy is shrinking. Second quarter it shrunk by 0.9. First quarter it shrunk by 1.6%. Britain, the economy also shrunk in the first quarter. In the second quarter, it also shrunk, I think, by 0.4. So France, the economies are shrinking. Germany. So where are they going to get the money that they are talking about that they are going to give us? They don't have the money. And anyone who thinks straight, I think they should be able to understand that these guys, what they're talking about, are equal partners. It is not going to happen. And they are behind, that they have become followers to China, because China is now actualizing projects. Like I said, it built a train between Djibouti and Ethiopia. For them, they have not built anything. And if you look at Blinken's speech, it's just an empty speech, nothing tangible which you can say, we are starting this project, we are starting to build that project. It's just nothing, complete nonsense that Blinken came to say, in the South. So this is what I see in that speech. And then when the foreign minister Pando, spoke out aggressively and tried to defend Africa's position, I really felt that this is very, very encouraging. The issue of the so it was very encouraging what she said. Also, when he went to Rwanda, when he went to Rwanda, it's the same thing which happened there. He met a lot of resistance because he was trying to be a boss around there, to boss the people around. But actually, immediately when he arrived, because Kagame knew what they were going to talk about, President Kagame immediately tweeted on his Twitter space, and he said that there is certain things which don't work here. Is when this guy was just arriving, Blinken was just arriving, and when you see the tension in the room in the press conference with Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs, you could also see that he's resisting what this guy was saying. He's saying that you have to respect the institutions here. You have to respect the laws here. You know, the United States has to respect laws here. So I think that they have really made very strong Africans who are very, in a position. They are bent. Africans are right now are bent on protecting their interests, and this gives me some little bit of hope. It's not the best which we should get, but I think we can start pushing from there as the youth and African civil society, and then the Pan-African world. We could band together with some of the progressive African governments, and then we keep pushing forward until we get the union government of African states. What do you think of the attack on Congo? As I mean, the attack on the United Nations in the Congo, because a couple of people died. I think about 16, more than 16 people, 15, 16 people died
Yeah.
during this, because the United Nations security groups were just shooting the people. What do you think is the driving force behind this attack?
Um, I think, you see, this comes as a failure over time to organize and actually, give people proper leadership.
Mm,
And the way it's happening, I said that it is like a popular protest. It's a popular uprising of saying that once a small thing happens, like you find that it can. I'm like, just giving a picture here. It can be as simple as an accident,
mm,
a simple accident involving the UN troops, which actually sparks the community to go against each and everything that they see as being wrong with their community. And when we fail to organize, those kind of things end up happening. They pop up because I want to bring it back to the geopolitical play. The geopolitical play is that um, I'm not aware of of a Russian presence in the Congo. That is the exclusive domain of the US and China. So
mm,
the manner in which geopolitics play out, the manner in which we need to look as to the impact that we are making. Let's ask ourselves, what more did we do any better than, say, go back to the Vietnam? The people in Vietnam, did we do any better than the people in Vietnam? Our ministers, yes, they are speaking. They've always been speaking. They say very fancy things. We always get a clause to celebrate. We always get a clause to celebrate, but did we do any better than Afghanistan? Did we do any better? Oh, Syria today is being occupied. Are we doing any better than Syria in our resistance to capitalism, to Western imperialism? Are we really doing better? Or are we just parroting after, it's more like hearing loving the sound of your own voice. We love hearing these small things and having this small burst of celebration. Whereas when you look at it, it does not add anything to us strategically. But then what happens in the Congo actually adds to conscientizing the people, to get people rallied, because the leaders have divorced the people. The leaders are divorced from what is happening on the ground. We are suffering from what I call urbanization. Well, we are suffering from urbanization. That the seven of us who find ourselves in the urban areas actually forget the millions of people who are in the rural areas, who are actually next to the mines, who are actually feeling the effect of what is happening to the environment, to their food supplies, to their water sources. All those things add up to the same thing. When China is advancing with the Belt and Road initiatives, the Western world. And we really need to see the geopolitical reality of today. Because
Yeah. So what you're saying is that we need to not to celebrate premature victories. Is that what you mean?
yes, yeah, no.
That
Let-
we need
yeah, let's look
to
at
go
it from
out
that
there.
perspective. We look at it from that perspective of saying you can call it a premature victory, but of what substance is your victory? I was talking today to a brother, and I told him that leaders are not permitted rhetoric. It's not the rhetoric that we want from leaders, it is the action. Tell us if you are going to ever want us to celebrate a victory, because I don't want us to call them victories. It's a rhetoric win, propaganda win or a rhetoric win, whatever we will call it. But then it ends up at rhetoric. That is what we need to like really look at the substance of what's happening. When I say let's go and ask, because I guess we can all agree that the secrets that our leaders have, all the secret deals, are illegal. They're supposed to tell us everything. Now, what did the presidents discuss with the Secretary of Defense? That's what I'm more interested in, because rhetoric, we have always had somebody who gives us rhetorical excitement. We always have orators who actually speaks to our spirits and we are uplifted in one way or another. But then now let's look at it. We find that there's the Western world and all the apparatus, and then there's China, and then there's Russia. China and Russia really don't want to become a federation and mix their cultures. They seriously don't want that to happen, because if they really wanted to win, they would bulk together. And remember, China can withstand the Western world by itself. The Belt and Road Initiative is from China by themselves, and they are actually actualizing it. But then the West comes with this thing called the PGII. I think, yeah, PGII. I think that's the 600 billion deal. And I think there's a vaccine. Call it a vaccine manufacturing plant, I think, in Senegal. So each and every country, I think there's 3 countries who are actually actualizing that. It's not, I don't think that when you look at Africa and the African problem, we don't want money.
And
We don't
and
want
what is surprising about those things which you are saying, that their plants, they are putting up vaccine plants like the one in Senegal, and one they are putting up one in Rwanda too, is that these companies are foreign, and what they are going to do is that our governments are the ones which are going to buy those vaccines using our taxpayer money, and these companies are going to grow rich, and they are saying that we are manufacturing our own our own drugs. That is what they say. We are
that is exactly
manufacturing
the
our own
reason.
vaccines.
That
It's
becomes
crazy.
exactly the reason that we don't celebrate rhetoric from the leaders. Yes, we hear you. You're talking about independence, doing what the country wants, but there is a imperial vaccine manufacturing plant being built in your country. We understand that you are taking a stand, but there is a U.S. Navy at the port, Navy vessel at the port as you are speaking. But so we need, then let's look at the realities on the ground. If Rwanda is getting in bed with the imperials, building their companies and everything, what exactly is then Rwanda saying through their foreign minister, talking about independence and we applying our own laws? So that's not going to help us when you look at it. I was saying
But
that
but
we
but
don't know.
but let me just cut you short there. Don't you think that this initiative, because I hear even one of the senators or the mayors in one of the provinces in Congo, where people were demonstrating, actually they said over a dozen UN peacekeepers were killed. And actually most of these are Africans. They are Africans from different parts of Africa who have been given the work of the UN. So what you see here is Africans killing Africans. We have Africans saying that they are working for the UN, but they are working for foreign interests to
Yeah,
extract resources, you see, so that these guys can take them. And then now we have a clash between Africans, like what we are seeing we have been seeing in South Africa of xenophobia and all that phobia, whatever, that the white man is there sitting in Britain, is sitting in New York, and Africans are fighting against each other to take resources for him and send it to him. So that is the tragedy. But don't you think that there is need to harness this potential of the African people in the Congo who have realized that we need to do something for ourselves, that these organizations like the UN have been here for the last 60 years and we are tired of them because they're not doing anything. These people have realized that the UN is a tool for robbery. The United Nations is a tool of robbery that has been stealing, and that is why the United Nations has been blocked, many times in Ethiopia because they knew how corrupt this organization is. At one time, they went with the trucks to the Tigray region with 300 trucks in Ethiopia, and they were saying that they are sending aid. And they came back and they said that the trucks have disappeared. That is what they said. So this is the kind of corruption these people have. So
Yeah.
I think that, I was asking that, don't you think that this resistance that the people have started putting up in the Congo and demanding for the expulsion of the Congo, which expulsion even President Kagame has spoken about in the past and said that if the UN was not in the Congo, the Africans would have solved that problem of rebel groups in the Congo. But it is the Congo which is, I mean, it is the UN which is the problem. Don't you see that we should find a way of working with this content in the Congo so that we can all together as Africans call for the expulsion of the United Nations from Africa so that we can try to solve these problems
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah. The UN employs other Africans to be their soldiers. Where do those Africans come from? It should be that simple. Whose army, whose soldiers? Is it Museveni's? Is it Kagame's? Is it Tanzanians? Who are the soldiers serving UN in the Congo? That should give us a clearer picture. As for harnessing the popular uprisings that are happening, it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous because you are adopting an idea. You see what happens in Sierra Leone. There were soldiers who joined the people in the protest. And we will get to that, but then there were soldiers who joined the people in the protest. Now, our colonial administration, we are still under a colonial administration. When you talk about presidents, ministers, mayors, you are talking about colonial administration. Our colonial administration lacks what Isidore says, meant when he says that a soldier without a political ideology is a potential criminal. When you look at the picture,
I think it's Thomas Sankara who said that.
yes, Isidore Sankara, yeah, Thomas Noel Isidore Sankara. Yeah, you see, when you look at the picture we are looking at now, you see black people who, for lack of ideology, for lack of a proper ideology, they have volunteered. A soldier, you cannot push a soldier into a war. You cannot put a soldier into war. They are there enforcing you, and basically clashes like this whereby Africans kill Africans are going to be there. I personally would say that we do not need foreign militaries. I mean, foreign personnel. We don't need foreign personnel. But when it is our personnel in the army who then brutalize the people, it becomes a problem, an ideological shutting down. Because let's look as to what is happening with Mali. It's another tag. It's another tag of the forces in Mali. Now, when you look at it now, you are like, okay, so there must have been a preposition from Russia to say that no, we'll assist. Whether they said they'll assist, whether they pushed for assist to assist, it's another thing, because now Mali, after having expelled the French soldiers, they are now bringing in, it is alleged that they are bringing in Russian personnel to come and try to quell the terrorist activities, which somehow are now on a high because, well, the French are not there anymore. But then we see the play there. We just need, for us to be able to harness, we need more and more ideological, pervasive ideological
Yeah,
education will
Yeah,
say that.
what I understand about Mali is that you know, when they expelled the French kept coming back. The French kept coming back to divide the people within inside and try to overthrow the existing government, because the government was trying to cut ties with France. France, after the overthrow of Honorable, Muammar Gaddafi, President Muammar Gaddafi, they these NATO people, they opened up the Sahel, and the rebels came all the way from Iraq, Syria, and they entered into the Sahel and started causing chaos there. And these people created the ISIS themselves, actually, and they allowed that ISIS to come into the Sahel so that they can justify the presence of France. So immediately after overthrowing Muammar Gaddafi, you could see that the next year, 2012, because they overthrew him in 2011, you could see that the next year in 2012, immediately the French troops arrived, that they are coming to keep peace and keep out the rebels from the Sahel. But the government in Mali realized that the French actually are building more rebel groups in the Sahel. And even the French army itself killed more than 3,000 individual, civilians, Malians. So this is what got these people annoyed. The army was always fighting, but when they fight, they realize that when they capture the rebels or the so-called Islamists, these people, they have weapons which were given to them by France. So this is what got the army so annoyed about this situation, and they say they have to take over and expel France, because they realize that the country cannot settle with France around. France was using this to continue the domination and robbing of the country. Like, I would like to remind you about one quote which George Bush said. George Bush said, that George Bush who caused the war in Afghanistan, that America gets its energy resources from unstable parts of the world. You see, so if the parts are unstable, then the United States will be able to extract as much
Yeah.
resources to take care of its energy needs. So this is the same strategy which they are trying to employ in Africa: create a lot of chaos, and then steal our resources and take them and build back Europe and build back the United States. The same strategy. That is why you are seeing they opened Libya. They opened up Libya. Rebels have entered all the way. Islamists, which were created and financed from the Middle East, they enter the continent. They recruit more groups, give guns. They go to Botswana. They go to Ivory Coast. They have gone up to Mozambique. So they will create chaos around in the Congo. And this, what is the purpose? To keep the place unstable and not growing. That means economically we don't grow if we are unstable. And you can see what they are doing in Ethiopia, because they don't want. Ethiopia was growing at 8 to 10%, before 2020, more than any other African country. They don't like that, because Ethiopia was industrializing. They don't want a strong country around the Asian route, the route which goes to Asia, connects Asia to Europe for trade, and it is close to the Suez Canal also. They don't want a strong country there. So that's why you see that they are disturbing Ethiopia so that it can become weak, it will not grow. So these are the tactics which I see that they are using on the African continent to keep it down, that it will not grow. So the Malian people saw France as a problem. That's why they decided to expel them. Now, because they did not have enough capacity and training, that's why they reached out to Russia. Russia should be able to give them some training and some protection, because France was working around the clock to overthrow the government and then bring another puppet, you know. So they decided to expel the UN. They expelled the France, they expelled the UN, they expelled the Denmark. So why would all these imperialistic countries come to Africa in the Sahel? They expelled the Denmark, they expelled the German, all these guys. So when they expelled the France went to Niger. That is where it is lodging now, as it is working every day, and it is violating the Malian airspace. It's just provocation is going on. So that is what the purpose of the Wagner group. And when you see Blinken, even in his visit, he has been condemning the Wagner Group. Wagner Group. So when you see a white man and an imperialist condemning something, just know, and that's what you are doing. Just know that that's the right thing you are doing. Just continue to do what you are doing. So that
Yeah.
is from that is my perspective from that that issue. And that attack on the Congo, I think, is a continuation on in Mali, because the Malian people also expelled the UN from their country, because they realized
Let me
these
just
are
drop this in. It's the same thing right now. When you quote Bush to say that the West gets their energy resources from unstable countries, the Congo has been unstable ever since the Congo has been the Congo. That is
yes,
what is happening. The production capacity of the land of Congo, the cobalt that is coming out of there, the gold that's coming out of there, all the diamonds that are coming out of there, the
the
game
timber,
that is coming out of there, all of it is being used in the world today. Because
yes.
and in an instability right now, we are veiled. We are basically veiled from the realities of the Congo, so that I'm going to say the globalist business setup, who actually are pushing for very extreme types of capitalism, for them to basically keep on making a dime out of each and every thing that happens. I mean, it is then outsourced to even national armies. Today, it is alleged that, and actually, they are even confessing it to say that they are in charge, like the US Army is in charge of about the 3% of the Syrian oil output per day. 33% of it is basically under the control of the US Army. And as human beings, you are supposed to believe that it is for the good of the Syrian people that the US Army is in control of all those barrels of oil coming out of Syria, which they are occupying illegally.
They have been actually stealing Syria's oil. Even the Chinese came out and spoke about it. Putin also spoke about it. They have been stealing. They have been stealing Syria's oil. The United States is stealing Syria's oil and taking it to the United States. So that is what is been happening. That the robbery, like road debt robbery, is now what is going on. Now let me go to let's go to Kenya and see what is happening there. Elections have been going on, and recently they have been peaceful. I remember also when Madame Pando, the foreign affairs minister in South Africa, was giving her press conference. She was mentioning about it and saying we should pray for Kenya so that they have peaceful elections. You know, in the past, Kenya is one of the countries which are very, very much affected by tribal elections. The tribalism is is sky in, you know, is up in the sky there. So you can never know what is going to happen there. But fortunately, the elections have been able to go on peacefully. Uh, the top contestants in this election is William Ruto and Raila Odinga. So they are neck to neck from the results which have been tallied so far. They are neck to neck. William Ruto was the you know, has been the deputy president to Uhuru Kenyatta, but they fell out along the way. They fell out along the way, and President Kenyatta decided to support again once his rival, who is Raila Odinga. So the elections are going on up there, and we are waiting. We are waiting for the results and what would happen, what would come up. Ruto, myself, I hope Ruto wins because he's a young guy, and you know, he could bring a new feeling. He could bring a new feeling into this thing. Because we really need some new blood to be running this continent. The older people, you know, have done their part. You know, President or Raila Odinga is quite old, and even from his speech, I see that he's a very, very, you know, tired person. So for him to take on a nation like that, I believe that it will not do us good as Africans. We need some young blood to take on these responsibilities. So that is just my view. I don't know
Yeah.
whether you have anything to say about that.
It's Africa. It's Africa. We're doing African roundup. Let's look at it. The reports of hacking. The elections council actually had to stop counting because there were reports that somebody had gained access to their receiving network, which accepts numbers tallied from the polling station. So somebody actually had access to that. They are saying that no, we caught it before anything was deposited into the data. So the data integrity is still fine. But then there is that. And if like hearsay is anything to go by, there's actually a communications professional who is wanted to be arrested because he's believed to have been behind the hacking. And remember, this also happened back in 2017. There's always a hacking, election hacking, which is kind of happening behind the scenes. And right now, as the tallying is actually neck to neck, it means each and everyone can come back and say, let's go and investigate the hacking because the results are not as credible as you would want them to be. So as for my preference, I wrote it on Twitter during the course of the week that African problems don't give credence to leadership. Doesn't matter who the leader is. Our problem and our solutions remain the same. Look at it from that perspective to say that it doesn't matter who wins. What do we want them to do, and are they doing it? Because now we elect people based on history and forget their time in office, such that
I actually sorry for interrupting you, but I actually think that Uhuru Kenyatta has done really a good job when it comes to infrastructure. I had been disappointed with him a little bit, somehow, because when he came, he's someone who was very, very Pan-Africanist, even when, his rhetoric was very Pan-African to the extent that he came to the Ugandan parliament and he said that Uganda and Kenya should pass the same, economic policies. Our budget should be the same because we are the same people. We have tribes at the border, we even at one time, we had a member of parliament in Uganda is a brother to a member of parliament in Kenya, actually. That happened like that. So we are brothers, and even when he crusaded against the ICC, when it was tried to indict him with his deputy, president, taking them to the ICC, they mobilized Africa, and Africa spoke out against the ICC, and the ICC actually dropped those charges. But along the way, he called it back and stopped talking about Pan-Africanism. But, that's the way it is. But he has been very good at infrastructure. He has constructed a lot of infrastructure in the country. And even in the recent summit, East African summit, which happened in Arusha, Tanzania, he was really talking very well that we have to build infrastructure in Africa. We have to unify and get a federated East African state. This will help us to speed up the process now that we have we have 7 countries, including Congo. Somalia is also trying to apply to be part of the East African community. So all these things, he was talking about them and said, this is a good thing. We need to build what Museveni has been calling the center of gravity for Black people. We could start with the East African Federation and it could work as a center of gravity. I don't agree very much with Museveni's ideas of unifying, the federated East African community, but that's the way it is. Our time is running very, very fast, and I think we should go straight to Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone, I don't know what the riots are about, but I saw that it was the increasing, there was an increasing cost of living, and that is what has caused people to riot. And what the president did there is just to release the military on the people, which I see that it is not a good thing. I see this as a very unwise for a president to do this. I think the problems should be solved instead of he releasing the military on the people to try to be the people. I've been to Sierra Leone myself in 2018, but it is not a country which you can say is on the move. They cannot produce their own power. They are using what they call a power badge from Turkey, which is very, very expensive. So you can see that money is just flowing out. You go and borrow money from the World Bank, and to produce energy, to produce power to run the country, you pay that same money to power barges, which is like a ship, power ship, which is from Turkey. And it is very, very unfortunate. So it is only when what I saw there, the poverty that I saw in Freetown, and even the towns where we went, yeah, it is unfortunate. But you don't blame them so much, because Sierra Leone has been under some really brutal wars. Brutal wars. It is just recently, I think in 2000, that they stopped fighting and started building the country. But since the 60s, they have been really, really fighting, and it is very, very unfortunate. But the
Yes.
people are not happy, and but these are some of the things which Nkrumah warned us about, that if we don't unify the continent, we are going to face these problems. We need to
Yeah.
unify our continent and solve our social problems together. We solve our political security problems together. We need, the unity, like I was saying, is not about the unification of Africa, is not about negating and obliterating our tribes and cultures. That's not what it is about. It is rather about protecting those cultures and celebrating those cultures within a protected web, within a protected blanket. But this is what many people, the proponents, people who are against African unity. This is their argument. People like Museveni, he talks about Pan-Africanism, and at the same time he says Pan-Africanism, we can't unify the continent now because we have different people with different cultures. That is Museveni's argument, which I find unfortunate, and it doesn't hold any water in the argument of when you're talking about real Pan-Africanism. So that is what is happening in Sierra Leone, that Sierra Leone and its problems that it is facing right now, these are the signs that we as Pan-Africanists, we have to studiously work for a unified African state. I don't know, my brother, what do you want to add on that issue?
Yes. I'll start with the apostle of African ideology, the Osagiafo, when he says that we are going to encounter a lot unless we can quickly unite our countries, we will be balkanized. And now we are actually experiencing, as you are saying, the result of our disunity, because it has been tried over and over. Because the simplicity, I was quoting the simplicity of in Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, when Bagbo was president, and he was actually trying to go to the other countries nearby, trying to let's unite, let's actually have friendly relations, let's actually have understandings as countries to act together, to act as one. And we also missed that. We missed the sophistication of Osagiofo. We missed the simplicity of just let the parliaments meet. Some things must be decided by both the parliaments, because it affects all the peoples. So when we fail to do that, I shared, I think you can see a picture. I am sharing a news article from 5 days ago. This is the New York Times talking about what's happening in Sierra Leone. There were some changes to the land laws, the laws of the land, and customarily there were some. This is the Sierra Leone that we don't see. This is the Sierra Leone that we are not looking at. Yes, we go to Freetown, we see some nice things, but then this is Sierra Leone. So it has to do. You see, this is the 9th of August. It has to do a lot with the changes to the Land Act, and when at very close range, I actually saw that it had to do with the laws that were being introduced were actually favoring individuals, which would, to me, then suggest that the protest is not genuine, because the people are now.
So they are facing this land grab, because what I'm seeing is that
by the laws.
there's land grab, because
Yeah.
they give land, they push off the poor people from land, and they give it to the rich people. This is what I'm seeing from this article. So that protest by the Sierra Leone people, I think it has to do with a lot of things, a lot of grievances, the cost of living going high, the government giving out land to the rich which belongs to the poor, because it thinks, maybe to a certain level, the government thinks that the rich people would create jobs or something, or they would give bribes to them, and then they give out this land which belongs to the people, which becomes definitely unfortunate. Or it is unfortunate that my brother has gone off, maybe because of internet. If you are out there, thank you for watching, and you want to join the program. We are discussing, or we are doing a weekly roundup of what is going on in Africa and in the African world. We have so far discussed what happened in Africa this going week. Blinken visited South Africa, Congo, and Rwanda. We discussed the attack by the African attack on the Congo offices in Congo. The citizens there were very, very unsatisfied with what happened and what has been happening by the Congo, by the United Nations in the Congo. For the last 60 years, they don't see the United Nations as a solution to the problems of the Congo, but rather the United Nations right now is being looked at as the problem. We discussed the Kenya elections and what is going on there. We are praying that maybe President Ruto, William Ruto, the young guy, would be able to win the election, so that maybe there could be some new sense of urgency in how things are being done. We discussed what we have been discussing right now is the riots in Sierra Leone, and also these riots, from what we have read, have been caused by the skyrocketing cost of living. I think about 40%. They are facing inflation, I think up to around 40% or increase in that. We were going to discuss the Ethiopian dam, the grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam, which was the third phase. It was filled. It is on the third phase of filling in Ethiopia, and so it was a moment for celebration in Ethiopia by the Prime Minister Ahmed Abiy. The Prime Minister, Ahmed Abiy, is very, very proud of this project because it has been able to be completed under his tenure. The project was started under the Prime Minister Meli Zenawi before he died. The project was in planning, and the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to actualize this project, and he has done a good job. This dam will not only double Ethiopia's capacity of energy, of electricity, but it will also have a surplus, which will be exported to the nearby countries like Kenya. Kenya already signed contracts with Ethiopia for receiving some of this energy that will come from the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam. But Egypt and Sudan had stood together to oppose this dam, and they had pushed the case and the conflict or the disagreement. They had pushed it to the United Nations, and Ethiopia refused. They will not go to the United Nations they will not allow the United Nations, because Ethiopia looks like they don't have any faith in the United Nations because of its track record all over where it has been. So Ethiopia refused that they will not, go ahead to be able to participate in that. They will not participate in that, and that is what happened. And Ethiopia was insisting that this is an African problem, and so it should be solved by Africans. So it tasked the African Union to mediate this problem, and Egypt was not agreeing. Egypt was saying that the United States and the United Nations should be able to mediate this problem, and Ethiopia also resisted because he believes that the imperials have nothing to do, uh, you know, uh, uh, they have nothing to do with this dam. It is an African project. It was a project which was put up by Africans. So it is the African Union that should be able to mediate this. And this guy was refusing. Egypt was refusing to do this. It was blocking this. So Ethiopia decided to go through the region and Democratic Republic of Congo to solicit for support. And lo and behold, Ethiopia was able to get this.
Yeah.
Region. Ethiopia was able to get the support it needed in the region, and so that is what has been going on. So from the look of things, it looks like Egypt was not able to start.
Okay, as we've lost quite inside, but then we see when we look at the Ethiopia, I'll start with an analogy. The analogy is of a people downstream playing with water and wondering why the people upstream are I think now you're back. And I was saying that the people downstream play with water and also wonder why the people upstream are thirsty. It's the same analogy. And let me lead rather with my ignorant, stupidity, or uninformed position in engineering.
Ethiopia says it has completed the third filling of its mega dam on the Blue Nile, a development that could raise further tensions with downstream neighbors Egypt and Sudan. The announcement Friday comes a day after Ethiopia said it had launched electricity production from the second turbine at the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, which lies in the west of the country. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, in images shown on state television from the dam site, described the Nile a gift of God given to Ethiopians to make use of. The massive $4.2 billion dam, said to be the largest hydroelectric scheme in Africa, has been at the center of regional disputes ever since Ethiopia broke ground on the project in 2011. There is still no agreement between Ethiopia and its downstream neighbors, Egypt and Sudan, about the GERD's operations, despite talks held under the auspices of the African Union. Egypt, which relies on the Nile for about 97% of its irrigation and drinking water, last month protested to the UN Security Council about the third filling. Ethiopia first began generating electricity from the GERD in February. Currently, the two operational turbines, out of a total of 13, have a capacity to generate 750 megawatts of electricity. It is ultimately expected to produce more than 5,000 megawatts, more than doubling Ethiopia's current output. The project was initiated under former Prime Minister Meles Zenawi, the Tigrayan leader who ruled Ethiopia for more than 2 decades until his death in 2012.
So that is what happened with the Ethiopia and that project. If you look at it, hello Titi, can you hear me? Hello Titi, can you hear me?
Okay,
that is what happened. That is what happened. You were saying something about the dam.
I followed it up a lot because from my perspective of not understanding engineering, but I understand that for you to generate electricity, water must be moving. You cannot keep water for yourself and think that is generating electricity. So I don't think the water is the problem. It is what the water will do. When Abiy was actually justifying it, he said, all we want to do is just that 40% of our people can see a light bulb. In Khartoum, the Nile actually floods every year, almost every year. The Nile expands because it's not a problem of water. They are talking about, I think, further down, it's when you look at the issue of Egypt. Egypt says that it's about the current. The current will be somewhat affected, but still, to me, it does not really make sense because the water must be flowing for Ethiopia to actually generate electricity. I was actually right now trying to research the effective and the beneficial owner of the dam. That will tell us a whole lot. The simple fact that of who owns the dam, who's going to control it, who's going to profit from it, that will tell us why we are having a fiasco over effectively nothing. It's not that we are trying to say that the people downstream must not have water. Ethiopia could not keep all the water. If they wanted to, they could not. They are not the source of the water. The water is going down the river. Actually, they had to flood a whole lot of their land mass for the dam to be there. The water can also keep flowing beyond the point that they are hoping for if they were to keep the water. But it is not about keeping the water. It is about just putting the water in a body such that when it is released, it will have enough force to actually generate electricity. That is my understanding of my rather crude understanding of hydrodynamics. But then when you look at it, we must really investigate the interest and exactly why. I myself would actually put it to saying that there is someone who sees that they're not going to profit from the initiative, and then they want to block it by whatever means. And we should also check as to what is happening on the ground in Ethiopia to say what is the alternative to the dam for people to have electricity.
Yeah. What I see is that there's genesis. There's a historical outlook on that dam. There is some historical perspective that we have to apply on it. That the British in the 1940s and 30s they signed the agreements and gave when Britain colonized Egypt. They signed the contracts and said that the Nile, River Nile, all the way from Uganda, where it starts from, Ethiopia, Congo, all the way Sudan, Kenya, where it comes from, and some water comes from Tanzania. They say that water, the Nile, is for Egypt. So that's the colonial times. So when they did that, so Egypt thinks that after colonialism was defeated, that agreement still stands. So that is why Egypt was saying that it will come and fight.
A quick question to that, to Egypt. We are not saying that, and Ethiopia took so long to actually fill the dam. All the discussions that were happening was about how long should Ethiopia take to fill the dam. Right now, as you say, the dam is at 85%, and they've already started actually harnessing the electricity. So
yes,
what is the opposition? What is Egypt's opposition? Because
at first they were saying that in the process of filling the dam, that the water will reduce. Okay, before the dam has flooded, the water will reduce, and they will not get enough water in Egypt and Sudan for them to irrigate and carry out their agriculture, because they get 97% of their water from the Nile, and which majority of the water comes from Ethiopia. More than 87% of the water that is in the Nile comes from the Ethiopian islands. So that is their argument. But what Ethiopia was saying, that we should solve this thing amicably as Africans. Egypt wants to bring colonial mentality and say that what we say is what must be done. And Ethiopia said that things don't work like that. And then the tripartite, the nations, or the nations which share in the dam, I mean in the water, and the Nile water, which contribute, they sat together and they said that these agreements which Egypt is bringing, they are colonial agreements, they are all colonial agreements, they don't apply now. Okay, so the Nile doesn't belong to you. If you want, you have to negotiate here. So when it ran to the United Nations and the US, you remember in 2020, even when Fatah Sisi went to New York and met Trump was saying that in Washington, Trump was saying that Egypt could blow up that dam. You see, that Egypt could come and blow up the dam which is being constructed. So these all were, fear tactics. They were instilling fear in the people, scare tactics which they were using. But the nations in the region, Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, all of them, they disagreed with Egypt. The only support which Egypt had, it was of Sudan. Okay, so the other ones, they refused and said those agreements, they don't apply. So if Egypt wants to work, it has to work within the African framework. And that is what Abe was saying, that the African Union should work on this problem, not the UN. The UN doesn't know anything about what is here, and Washington doesn't know anything about what is here. The African Union. So he insisted on African solution to African problem. And Egypt sort of wanted to minimize the African Union, and the Africans in the region were trying to teach Egypt a lesson, that you cannot minimize the African Union, and you don't think that it can solve this problem. You want to look down on the black people here because you think that you are Arabs over there, so you cannot come and bow down to these guys. So they showed them. So while Sisi was in Washington, Abiy was in the region. He went to Uganda, he went to Rwanda, he went to Congo, he went to Kenya. So he gathered a lot of support. And even Blinken went to Kenya on that same issue. And after Blinken went to Kenya, before Blinken went to Kenya, the United States military, AFRICOM, was saying that they can be able to solve the problem in Tigray. That dam issue is not separate from the Tigray issue. You see, is not separate at all. So that is where the problems came from. The United States military was saying that its military will be able to solve the problem in Tigray. You see,
yes.
So the Africans, Blinken went to Kenya, and he was saying he was going with the same proposition. In Kenya, they told him that no. Uhuru told him that we don't like that thing. The problem in Ethiopia has to be solved internally. It's an internal problem. We don't want any military, any foreign military to come in. So that is the problem. But later Egypt would capitulate. It has capitulated. That is why you see that after feeling the third phase of the feeling, it has not said anything, because it knows that any foreign UN is not welcome in the region. Any proposition for them is not welcome.
Yeah, you could say, I mean, let's read white malice into this, and then you could see that the West, the imperials, they will use whatever tool is at their disposal. They have forgotten, they leave Egypt alone now, because it was never Egypt's concern what happens with the dam. Egypt and Ethiopia could have sat down with Sudan and the region and actually discussed how do we not starve the next people. But they did not want that to happen, because it was not out of merit. It was out of colonial imperials.
That was the problem.
Yeah,
definitely.
Quoting treaties which the British actually unilaterally presented to the League of Nations, to the UN. The UN will look at treaties which were filed with the UN and will quote the fact that the African Union had said that there was no interfering with inherited borders. And then they can look at the technicalities. But those technicalities do not apply. We are not in an imperialist colonial order. You see, once Egypt is no longer being useful And you can say that Egypt is no longer being useful because, well, there is a closer enemy in Tigray who is going to disrupt what the government of Ethiopia is doing.
Yeah, so they wanted Tigray, they wanted to put Tigray in power so that Tigray can pander to their, dictates. That is what they wanted. But let us go to the next topic. But I think Prime Minister Abiy of Ethiopia is really doing a very, very good job. He handled it very well, and he's trusted the African Union, and he trusted the ability of the Africans to solve the problem. Let's go to the last news. The raid on the Uhuru house by the FBI, and its claim that the FBI claimed that Africans were sponsoring. It claimed that the Africans were being sponsored, the Africans under the leadership of the African Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, they were being sponsored by Russia. That is the claim. Recently, the Uhuru movement had come out to give support to Russia and say that they support Russia. We as the Uhuru movement, we support Russia, and what we are saying is that what the United States is using are colonial tactics, and those colonial tactics are for defeating Russia and try to defeat China and continue to dominate the world and colonize the world. So that is what the argument of the Uhuru movement and its chairman Omari Yashitela. That was their argument. Let me just play a little bit here so that we can see what they were saying.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out. Something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaball rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
We will build a movement of white people that says hand off the
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we have the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, to take the struggle of black people around the world.
Yeah, that's the Uhuru movement, and I think they have really been doing a good job, and it is unfortunate. I think that the United States and the imperialist camp is facing a lot of challenges all over the world. Is facing resistance from across the world, across the world. You know, whether you're talking about Afghanistan, whether you're talking about in Ukraine, in Russia, they don't have enough resources to fight back. I mean, they don't have enough resources now to confront all these challenges which they have actually started themselves. They are facing challenges, they are chasing them away from the South China Sea. You can see what China is doing to them. You can see what, when they came to Africa, Blinken, when he came to Africa, the Africans told him. So they are facing, you know, all kinds of resistance. They are facing all kind of resistances from across the world, across the world. So they are facing resistance even at home. They have problems, tremendous problems at home, that the whole ruling class is breaking in between, you know, is breaking up. You know, the Republicans and the Democrats, they are all breaking up. They are fighting against each other, insulting each other, raiding Trump. You know, Biden is instructing the FBI to raid Trump. So they first raided the whole movement, and then they raided Trump also. The FBI raided Trump. So this whole movement, they have seen it as a threat, because of the, you know, the mode of organization. They are very organized, and they are very ideologically sound, and they tell you what the problem is. The problem with Africa is colonialism, and that is the same thing which you know, President Magufuli was showing the people before they killed him, because he was showing the people that it is colonialism that is the problem. Our problem is not human rights. Our problem is not corruption. Our problem is colonialism. It is the one which is stealing from us. They are stealing our resources and then claiming and coming back to you know, to blame us that we are corrupt. When they are the ones who are stealing our resources, they say we are corrupt. How can we be corrupt when you guys are stealing from us? So they go around and blame. Now it's the same thing which they are doing to Kagame, that they are coming to blame Rwanda. How can you blame Rwanda when you have been in the Congo for the last 60 years stealing the resources? You have been in the Congo for the last 600 years stealing, and now you are coming to say Rwanda is the one sponsoring rebels, you know, rebels in Congo. So that it doesn't really, for rationally, it doesn't really augur well. It doesn't make sense, you know, when you are looking at it rationally. It's the same thing which they do in the United States. Whenever the African people in the United States demand for something, reparations, and they say you are killing us, police is killing us, they say, what about black on black crime? So they try to shift this responsibility which they have and they are supposed to have, and they say you are doing this. You see, in Africa, after all these colonialism, after this slavery, after all these human rights violations, they say that we are the ones violating the human rights. So it is the same hypocrisy that goes around, that you see Blinken coming here talking about human rights, but the United States has been violating the human rights of people all across the world. Afghanistan is just recent here, Libya, you know, Iraq, Vietnam, South, you know, Korea. All these are, you know, Somalia. You are violating human rights now in Spain. I mean, in Ukraine, you are sending weapons and people are dying. You send $400 billion of $40 billion of weapons. People are dying. You send another billion, another 1 billion. People are dying. And Russia is saying negotiate. Russia wants to negotiate on the table. So I think this is what the whole movement is trying to talk about. And I think that all African people, they should try as much as possible to support the Uhuru movement, because what they are doing, there's no any other African organization, Pan-African organization, I believe, that is doing what these guys are doing in organizing the people and conscientizing them, you know, ideologically, and bringing this understanding to them. So I really applaud the Uhuru movement, and all people should go out there, support the Uhuru movement, join and make a contribution so that we can build a movement that will dislodge colonialism, neo-colonialism, and all the deception that these white people are running around from Europe to America and coming to Africa and bringing that deception and hypocrisy when they are the ones who are killing and violating the human rights of the people of the world and stealing from them.
Yeah. Well, you see, it takes a very small entity, a very small movement out of St. Pete, of a number, 100 of people or so, to actually do what countries fail to do. We need to really see, I mean, let's see through United States politics. I mean, at their lowest, we've got Watergate, and then recently we've got Russiagate, where they were accusing Trump of being linked to Russia. And because right now, Russia and China is the boogeyman that the US has created. It used to be communism, but now it is becoming...
They do that. They do that whenever they are facing economic problems.
Yes.
Whenever they have economic problems they can't solve at home, they find a boogeyman outside. And
Yes.
now they are saying Russia, because the economy in the United States is declining.
The use of the boogeyman is always to root out dissent. Right now, the indictment, the FBI indictment there, I think it's some county in Tampa, Florida. So there is the Russian Alexander Leone. He's the one who actually the indictment is against. And they are saying that by relation, they have to raid Uhuru for the Uhuru house for evidence and everything that it is said, because basically they stole all those laptops, the cell phones, they stole them, they stole the documents. So we need to see through what is happening. You see, it takes a small movement to actually do what governments in Africa are failing to do, which is why it is very pivotal that we organize as a, and to conscientize one another, to make one another realize the forces at play, to make each other to realize just how far it will go, because this is not only happening now. Uhuru movement, they've done this to the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam, they've done this to the Nation of Islam. They've always wanted to, yes. See, when you look at it now, you think of Malcolm X. They did this to Malcolm X. They put a wedge between people. They are always doing this. And when you start to see the documents that are coming out being declassified, you see that they have always wanted to be in charge of the narrative. They've always wanted to be in front of what people say and what people do, such that at the end of the day, it's serving interest. And these are no longer United States interests. They are commercial interests of very unscrupulous individuals who are actually just trying to further their exploitation, to trying to maintain their exploitation. A socialist movement like Uhuru would be able to conscientize people, to bring people to act like populists. They would later call you a populist, to actually make sure that whatever movement comes from the ground root level, comes from the people on the ground who are conscious enough to see.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you.
All we need is unity of action, and then we will find that we actually defeat, just like Nkrumah said. He said that it is the unity that is going to assist us in knowing who we are. And then Chinwezu says that it's not that we want to go back to the archaic ages. We want to develop Africa based on African ideals, and just give us the independence. Stay out of our affairs. Make it a point that you are not.
No, they don't want.
With they don't want that. That's why each and every movement that
they don't want.
I mean,
because
to ring it all up.
Because if they stay out, then there's no way they will exploit. There's no way they will take free resources. They can't stay out. So unless we fight them out,
Yes, to be a bit more controversial as we finish, Uhuru House is doing more than Pando and Rwanda foreign minister. That's just I want to put it out there. Uhuru House is doing more than the ministers. That's why you see the attack on Uhuru House.
Absolutely.
And even when, and also let's note, I mean, you were speaking about how Uhuru himself has actually distanced himself over time from Pan-Africanism. That's because at times when our leaders actually do something, they try to push for unity, they try to push for the African agenda, they are confronted with attacks on their peasants, attacks on their livelihoods. They are actually, white Malays come in again.
They blackmail them. They blackmail them, and they
Yes,
bribe
they are
them.
blackmailed, they are bought, and then so it also goes on to say that we need to be conscious of what's happening. We need to open our thinking to see who is for us and who is against us. While Uhuru was doing that, he was not popular. For him to be popular, for him to be invited for conferences of Africa, for all this, it's just like Thomas Sankara said. Thomas Sankara said that he was at the AU when he was speaking at the AU in 1987, just before he was overthrown. He was actually assassinated, rather. He said that, you see, if we could actually be anti-imperialist enough, if I could actually tell you guys to be anti-imperialist enough, you would not invite me to this conference the next year, because he knew how it was being, the narrative was going of saying that they ostracized those of us who are genuinely anti-imperialist, anti-colonialism, anti-neocolonialism, and who actually advocate for self-reliance.
Yeah. So I just wanted to play one more video before we close about Nkrumah on the subject which you said, how they intimidate the presidents. What Nkrumah was talking about here on, when we look at the forces against the African people and the project of African unity, that the good leaders actually, the ones who come up and they speak about Pan-Africanism and the importance of unifying the continent, immediately work for the people. So he said that they would try to intimidate you. They try to bribe you with some fictitious gifts, some petty gifts. And then when you refuse, then they intimidate you. They try to intimidate you and cause fear within you. And if you refuse that, then they will try to kill you because you have refused all these advances. They come up with methods of killing you. So let me just play it.
The forces arrayed against us are, and I use the word most carefully, formidable. They are intense and powerful. They are, as I have taken some pains to explain, the forces of imperialism acting through their instruments in colonialism and colonialism, ably assist the candidate of the Cold War. They operate in worldwide combinations at all levels: political, economic, military, cultural, educational, social, and trade. And not all. And through intelligence, cultural, and information services.
The media.
They operate from European and African centers, using it in full, and I should say, are often on the patriotic sons of Africa, buying personal satisfactions with the betrayal of their country's safety and integrity. They seduce leaders. They seduce leaders of the African political, trade union, and people's organizations that create risks and quarrels within the national front.
Is it paused or? I think, okay, I've got like a freezing thing here. Should be the only one who's live, maybe. So, yeah, when Nkrumah makes those utterances, we need to then realize that above and beyond what we see on the ground, there are forces that actually are in the background trying to push narratives, trying to push ideas, trying to push ideals and ideologies. We need to be as wary as serpents, really. We need to be wise and gentle as the biblical narrations. So we are then coming to the end, and I guess we can go and say that to finish, let me finish with Nkrumah, because I regard him as the apostle when it comes to African unity and African ideology.
One of the poorest countries in Europe.
All right.
Difficult to understand, therefore. And brought in their vassals, Spain and Portugal. Portugal, in fact, since the wars of the Spanish succession, 1700 to 1714, being a protectorate of Britain, which has enjoyed special trading and unnecessary rights in both Portugal and in the Portuguese territories for over 200 years. It is not difficult to understand, therefore, why Britain has not raised her voice against the atrocities in Angola and other protected Portuguese territories, and actually supported Portugal's preposterous claim at Goa in India, was an integral part of the Metropolitan Treaty. The arms and troops that are pouring into Angola cannot be regarded in isolation from the International Organization of Imperialism and the Cold War militarism, with which they are most definitely linked. It is absurd to think that Portugal, one of the poorest countries in Europe, could support so large an army, so well equipped, as that which he defended her colonial possession in Africa, without the active aid he must be receiving from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
He's talking about NATO.
No. Can you look upon the way in which South Africa is
we see Kwame Nkrumah as a saint, and that is just a nomenclature. He's a Christ, he's a prophet, he's an apostle. Because we need to look at who Kwame Nkrumah is. Kwame Nkrumah is the one who gave Guinea a 10 million loan at a time when it was not fashionable to do so from the Ghanaian perspective. But then that is why even when Secretary took custody of Kwame Nkrumah and actually wanted to hold on to him, because it was a brother, it was a comrade in arms, it was a person who, against the ideology of the time, against the fashion of the time, he extended a loan. I'm not certain as to what the loan was for. We can always go and research that. Let's just go and look as to how and why did Ghana extend a 10 million loan to Guinea Conakry, and then as we look at that, we look at the saint that he was. And because we speak about these things today that is being said in the speech, not as a people who see it today, but Kwame Nkrumah saw it then. We speak about it today if it's something like a new phenomenon. It's not a new phenomenon, it has always been. And what we need to do is to harness where Kwame Nkrumah.
The great mind and financial interests operate in South Africa create a chain of allies which seriously threatens both the fight for extending African emancipation from colonialism and independence of the new African states. Now that African independence has been achieved, over a large part of the continent, and the national consciousness of Africans from north to south, from east to west, is adding momentum to the struggle for independence. Every kind of means is being used by the colonialists to arrest progress and defeat objectives. They are attempting many methods, some sinister, some beguiling, to wreck our efforts. They strike anti-patriotic postures. On one side, they perform acts calculated to strike fear. On the other, they try to hoodwink us with fictitious gifts, which superficially pander to our hopes and aspirations. They are the president's attempts to deflect our purpose, to weaken our determination.
Yeah. So that is what I wanted to show. The methods which he was talking about, that some of our leaders, they cannot escape these various methods which they use, bribery, intimidation, and all that. And I think it reminds me about what we were talking about, the power of imperialism and neocolonialism, where it uses different methods to try to take out the leaders. The power, the tremendous power of neocolonialism, even though we can still defeat it, but it still has a grip that some of our leaders, they cannot stand. They feel that they cannot stand this grip. Anyway, we are coming to the close, and I want to encourage all the other people on the channel that we have petitions which are going around, and those petitions, we are asking and demanding for a united African state. We are demanding for a single passport, and we are demanding for a single military on the African continent. But we are looking for 1 million people. Those petitions, I will put them in the description down, and I'll put those description in the comment section. You need to go out there and sign those petitions. Those petitions have been endorsed by the Pierre Lumumba Foundation, and he himself has signed it. Dr. Edmund Folfak from the Ohio State University Medical Center, who is a renowned oncologist and doctor of cancer. Pan-African Daily TV, Dr. Susan has endorsed these petitions, and all the other big Pan-Africans have endorsed these petitions. Sister Shanice, on Sister Shanice's show, you can check her out on YouTube. So you need to come out there and sign these petitions. We are looking for 1 million, and then we are taking it out there. If you find that this channel is helpful, reach out to us. Leave your number in the comment section. Reach out to us, and I will leave also my email in the comment section and description. Come and support the channel on Patreon, on anywhere, just anything which you can support us, so that we can work together. We can push the work of Pan-Africanism forward. I want to thank you for being part of this show, and God bless. You will forgive us for the inconveniences. It was the network which was disturbing us a little bit, those technical problems, but next time we will fix them. Thank you. My name is Kwame Gonza, and the channel is called Africa Reimagined. Africa must unite. Africa must unite. Africa must unite within our generation. Thank you very much.